Hello everyone, Linda Israel here, and I have elements here piled up to make a junk journal page to go into a junk journal. And I'm working with the Calico Collage Digital Images Fairy Garden. So I'll show you some of that. I've got some Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist, I have some washi tape, I have some acrylic paint, as well as some Tattered Angels Glam. So let's get started. I have a page out of a book. I pick up books from the Dollar Tree for $1 or the thrift store. I like newer books if I'm going to use them as a sole element because they're usually thicker and not brittle. If you use old pages, you may want to adhere them either 2 pages together or put on top of another piece of paper because they can tear. But since this is an old page, I'm not really worried about it. I want to change the color of this page, and how I'm going to do that is using acrylic paint. On my desk here is a mixed media mat. This can be found from Canvas Corp brands. It is a Ken Oliver mixed media mat. I have some acrylic paint. This one is called Princess Pink, and I'm going to put probably almost a quarter in size of each of these colors. The next one is called Light Coral, so I'll put a little bit of that, shake it a little bit. So about a quarter, because I plan to paint more than just this page. And then I've got some Tattered Angels Glam that has lots of glitter, and it's in a peachy color. And I'm just going to take a little bit and pour some right in between. Not a whole lot, just a little. Then I've got an old key card, or happens to be a gift card from Christmas. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this credit card to spread the paint around. I'm going to dip the credit card in the paint and the glam, and then I'm going to rub it onto this page. I'm just going to keep doing that until this page is covered the way I want. I want to make sure that the paint isn't in thick layers. We want to smooth this out as much as possible so it will dry quicker. I'm going to dry this layer for a moment and then go back over it again. I think I've got this page ready to go. I'm going to dry it and move it out of the way. I have a page that's out of an old map that's cut to the size that I want it to be for my journal, but I want to alter the color of this as well because I don't want just the map showing through. So I'm just going to take, again, the acrylic paint and just go over this in random fashion and kind of add a little color to the map. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want a little bit of color, and then I'm going to dry this and flip it over. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side with what's left of the paint. I'm going to dry this side as well. Now I'll wash out my palette and then I can use it again for another project. Now that my page is dry, I've got a napkin. I've got tutorials on how to separate them, but it's quite easy to separate a napkin. And I've done that. I've got one layer and I want to put it on here. So what I'm going to do is go down each side and just gently tear so it's not a hard edge on this napkin. Alright, so both edges have been torn, and I'm looking to see where I want to place it. And I think what I want to do, because this bottom of the page has holes in it, I'm going to shift this down just a little bit so that I can fold it over to the other side once I've got it glued down. And it'll just kind of give a nice color to part of this page. So I've got some glue stick, and I always try to have a couple of these handy because you're going to use a lot of glue stick to stick this down. So looking here, I'm going to just flip this over so I know about where I want it. So I'm going to go about this line, and I'm going to go above where the napkin will actually go because it can adhere and it will smooth out, and when it's dry you won't see the glue. And that's what I like about using a glue stick with this napkin technique, that you can put on as much glue as you need. It doesn't make it a runny mess like liquid glue does, and it sticks down. It looks really cool. So I'm just going to position this low over the holes so that I can glue it on both sides. And then I'm just smoothing this out with my hands very gently, pressing it out. If I take my time, it'll be perfectly smooth. If I get in a hurry, it may have some wrinkles in it. You don't want to pull the paper as you're gluing this down because it can cause it to tear. Alright, so that side is adhered down, and I'm just going to pick this up because I'm on this mixed media mat and flip it over and do the other side. So again, I'm going to take the glue and just go right down here on the bottom all the way across. And then I'll just take my scissors and trim off the excess napkin. I have my spray box with my homemade stencil that I made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my stencil over this image, and I've got a couple of colors of Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist. I have Craft, which has a real pretty gold brown look to it. And then I have some Taffy, which is a pale pink. And I'm just shaking these up so that the mica is up in the liquid. And then I'm going to spray this. I'm going to use a mop-up page of paper to pick up the excess Tattered Angels. So that changes the whole look of that page. I'm going to flip it over and do the other side as well. This time, before I mop this all up, I'm going to use an envelope. This doesn't have adhesive on it, so I'm just going to lay this on here to pick up some of that Tattered Angels, and I'll put the other piece of paper over the top so I can go all the way around. So that gives a neat pattern on here. I'm going to set this aside to dry and work on the next portion. Alright, so I've got the book page now down in my spray box. And I'm going to put the same stencil over the top. And I'm going to spray it again with the same colors. It kind of gets that coffee dye look without using coffee. Now I'm going to pick up the envelope and do the other side. And mop up the excess. I'm going to dry my pages and I'll be right back. All right, so I've got my pieces pretty much laid out here. The thing I need to do is to cut this in half. So I'm just going to figure out where the halfway mark is. I'm not even going to measure it. I'm just going to fold it. This is what I do a lot because I don't measure by numbers and say this needs to be this in 1/16 of an inch, because I couldn't tell you where 1/16 is on the ruler. My husband laughs at me because I don't do math very well. I thought I could get through life the way I am. Alright, so I understand where my page center is. I'm folding it in half. And this area that doesn't have the napkin is going to be the bottom of my page. And it looks like my little piece of paper here is about 1/4 of an inch too long. And instead of cutting it off, I'm going to help sturdy this up a little bit. I'm going to fold over the top. So this will be the top portion of my pocket that I'm creating. And then I'm going to fold over after I cut the corner like that and like that. And then I'm going to fold over the sides. Now cut the corners like that just to kind of help with the bulk that's created when you fold the pages like this. And I think I have this upside down, but I really don't care. I'm going to adhere it down on the page and do the same with this one. I'm going to adhere it down with Aleene's tacky glue. So I'm just going to, oh, I didn't have it upside down. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue here in the corner. And on this corner. And then I'm going to go all the way around 3 sides of this newly formed pocket. So the pockets are on this side, and I'm going to flip this over and start working on this side. Now I've got this envelope. I picked these up years ago because where I used to work, they were going to throw them away. And so I asked if I could have them, and they gave them to me. Now in the Calico Collage Kit, she has these corner pieces. I've already fussy cut them out. And this one I started folding. It has a guide, you see here, and you just fold those pieces over. So I've already folded this one over, and I have an idea that I want to try. So I folded it in half after I folded those edges up. And I think what I want to do is I want to adhere this onto this envelope, and this will become tuck spots on both sides of this envelope. Now you want to make sure that you're not doing it on the side with the flap, because then you won't be able to open it. So next thing I'm going to do is adhere down these little side flaps. I find that if I use glue stick on them, it works better for me. So I'll just take a little bit of glue stick and run it right down where that seam is and fold it up, and do the same on the other. I'm going to go ahead and fold this one too. Now this one, the reason why I went ahead and glued this to itself was because I'm not going to adhere this side down. As I flip it around, that'll be a tuck spot, and I want that to stay open, but I wanted it to have a sturdier edge. So that's how that's going to go on there. So what I'll do is take some glue and glue along this edge. And if you're worried about it, put just a little bit of glue down that seam or crease. Not a lot, just a very little bit. And what I'm going to do now is push this into the center and wrap it around. There'll be a little bit of glue that'll push out on the bottom, and I just wipe it away. And like a silly person, I forgot to ink the edges, so I'm going to try to sneak in here and ink a little bit of that. Sometimes I get so caught up in the technique I want to share, I forget to do some of the embellishing. I think that turned out okay, putting that on there. So we have a spot on this side, we have a spot on this side. Well, I'm going to go ahead and ink this piece up before I do any gluing. I'm using Tim Holtz Vintage Photo and the Ranger Ink blending tool. And I'll have a link in my description box to my blog post that will list all the items that I use, so that if you want to duplicate this, you'll have the list right there. I'm just going around the edges of the envelope, and that's giving it that really cool vintage look. I'm even going to do the flap. Now with this corner piece, I'm just going to adhere it on top of the envelope, and I'm okay that this is going to overlap over here. So I'm just going to put glue on this piece and line it up onto the envelope. So there those are adhered to the envelope. The next thing I'm going to do is going to fold this in half and crease it. Because this becomes a little mini page with these tuck spots and a way to open and put stuff inside. So on the map page, the painted side that only has partial of the napkin, making sure you have it right side up, we're going to take this new page that we have made. I'm going to lay it on top of the map, but see where the center is? I'm about 1/4 of an inch from the center seam, and I'll show you why I'm doing that in just a moment. But what I'm going to take is some washi tape. I'm going to cut it nice and straight. And I'm going to start here at the edge and go to the other side of this envelope, but not extending past the envelope, and trim that tape. So it's adhered on this side, and then flip this over and do the same thing on the other side. You don't have to use washi tape. You could cut strips of paper and glue those in place. I just like washi tape because I don't have to use another glue to adhere it down. Alright, so there is the envelope. But what I want to show you is that when this is put in a book and you flip to this page, so let's pretend that we had more than one page put in here. Okay, so if this is in the center, and if I had adhered this down on the fold, I couldn't do this. Open it up, and I have access to the whole envelope. So you can put a bigger piece of paper in there. Just make sure you find the center and fold it so it'll close up. And then look there. You have a nice envelope right in the middle of your journal. Now let's finish this side off. As part of the same page that has these corners, there are these little fairy images by Calico Collage. So what I thought I would do is I've got these little mats that I made, and I'm going to pick 2 of these fairy images to go on top of that, and we'll decorate these. So the first thing I'm going to do is go around the edges with some vintage photo. That just helps blend this to the antique-y looking page that we're making. I'm going to use the glue stick and adhere the fairy image to the die cut shape. I have some washi tape here, and I just like the way it looks. So I'm going to just run a strip of it across the bottom of the pockets here. That'll also help cover up that my pocket didn't go all the way to the bottom. Sometimes when you see an element in a piece of art, wonder if it was to cover up a boo-boo. Because that's the way we operate. You know, we shouldn't have to be perfectionists. And if we have an issue, we should be able to work through it and accept it. And I just cover it up. It's no big deal to me. All right, so I'm going to place, I guess, these kind of in the center. And I've got some eyelash trim. So I'm going to cut a little piece of that to go right behind. And that just kind of gives this ethereal, whimsical look to it. And I'm okay if it hangs out of the journal. The person that gets the journal doesn't like it, they can cut it off. So I'm going to use some Aleene's Tacky Glue. And I'm going to adhere this down. I'm not going to make it a tuck spot. I've decided it's just going to be an embellishment. And sometimes if you do a project like this and you need to get it to stay flat, just put something heavy on it. Alright, so I have 2 of these images that were left over from cutting those others out. I've got some distress ink, and then I have some basically 4 by 4 by 5.5 inch pieces of paper. And so what I'm going to do is use my crocodile corner rounder, and I found that if I put both of them matched up together, I can round all the corners at one time. So that becomes an element to be used, because next I'm going to use the distressed ink and go around the edges. And I'm okay with it looking messy. I'm not done yet, so don't worry if you ever apply distressed inks and it's too dark in a spot. You can just work with it. You know, I think sometimes we get so caught up in making it perfect, we don't realize that it's an art and it's just fun and it's about playing. Right, so those have been distressed, and I have 2 little index cards here that are, I think they're 2 by 3 or 2.5 by 3, and I'm not going to round the corners. I'm just using the distressed ink on here. All right, now that these have been distressed, I'm going to place them in my spray box. So I've arranged it so that all 4 are in my spray box, and I'm going to lay a stencil over the top of this. I'm going to get the Craft Tattered Angels because I like that vintagey look, and it'll help tie everything together. And we're going to spray these. Then I'm going to pick up some of the taffy and spray in between. That'll help blend out that craft. I'm going to use a mop-up sheet to pick up the excess. And then I'll use my heat tool to dry these. Now on these larger pieces, I'm going to take some glue stick and adhere these down the corners. No additional embellishments, because I think the Tattered Angels kind of makes it pretty. And then just adding that Calico Collage image there in the corner just makes it a finished card. So then this can go in here. So there's 2 journaling cards. Now I'm going to flip this back over to our envelope here. I'm going to use some of this washi tape again, and I'm just going to go across the top of each of these journal cards that I've made. And then these can go here and here. I'm going to leave the inside empty for that whoever gets this page inside the journal can choose to put. We've used a page out of an old map street atlas. I added a napkin to the top. We painted a page out of an old book. We made journaling cards. We used the Calico Collage digital images fairy garden. On the other side, we sprayed and added the napkin. We embellished an envelope with the Tattered Angels images and made journaling cards, and this envelope can go all the way across. So there is a journal page for the fairy garden journal that I'm working on. Alright, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Check out the description box for links for all the items that I used today. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, come on, subscribe. I share so much cool stuff. Hey, if you have questions, use that comment box down below. If you have a comment that you want to make, again, use that comment box down below. Check out the links in my description box for how to reach me through my Facebook groups, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, of course here on YouTube as well. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for watching. Have a fabulous day. Bye.